Welcome to our deep dive. Today we're stepping into a world where, well, just one video clip can spark a massive firestorm.
Yeah, it's that intersection of hip-hop's cultural codes clashing head-on with legal realities.
Exactly. High stakes, questions of loyalty, truth, even survival. We're talking about the infamous interrogation video of Gotti.
A really key figure in that huge YSL RACO case. RACO, that's the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act.
Right, a powerful law, usually for organized crime, but here it's being applied pretty controversially to a music collective. So our mission today is to really unpack this whole complex story for you. What did that video actually show, or what did people think it showed?
And the reactions, right, from the public, from other artists. Intense stuff.
Totally. And Gotti's own responses, which were surprising to say the least. And crucially, how his whole legal journey shook up the bigger YSL trial, and maybe even how we think about justice.
By the end of this, you should have a really clear picture of the key moments and, their lasting impact.
We've looked at a lot of material news reports, that intense commentary over on Reddit, our Young Thug community.
Yeah, plus insights from pieces like Gotti Interrogation, Loyalty, Backlash, and Acquittal, and another analysis called Gotti, Loyalty, Acquittal, and the YSL Trial Impact. So we've got a good base.
Okay, let's set the scene. This video surfaces.
Yeah.
And almost instantly, boom, a firestorm.
Just the visual alone.
Yeah, it shows Gotti. He's in an interrogation room. He's holding a piece of paper.
And the allegation, the immediate interpretation from many, was that this paper detailed info he was giving investigators.
People saw it as him, like volunteering names, spilling sensitive details about the YSL case.
What's really fascinating, though, is how fast the visual tone took over. It wasn't necessarily just clear words people heard.
What do you mean by tone?
Well, the footage showed him eating during the questioning, right? Appearing, I don't know, somewhat casual, ambiguous maybe.
Good.
But that perceived comfort, that visual ease with detectives, that became a huge point of contention.
So people saw that and immediately jumped to conclusions.
Instantly. The belief was he's cooperating,
Right.
giving them incriminating details, especially when you compare it to how others, like Gunna, were perceived.
Right. And you absolutely have to understand that reaction through the lens of hip-hop culture. It's just vital.
Yeah.
Anyone familiar knows the stigma around cooperating with law enforcement. It's immense.
Loyalty is everything. Refusing to cooperate is like a fundamental rule.
It's this unwritten code. You know, it governs everything, behavior, expectations.
Precisely. And that cultural backdrop, it's not just like background noise, it's the main stage here.
It turns a regular interrogation clip
Into a public trial, yeah. And the accusation of snitching, it carries this enormous weight. It can wreck careers, reputations.
And in this case, it just amplified the backlash against Gotti to, well, almost unbelievable levels.
The unwritten rules, the street loyalty code, they become just as powerful, maybe more powerful than any legal statute in that court of public opinion.
So, okay, the firestorm's raging, public opinion is harsh. How did people, specifically react? Fans, other artists? Because this is where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah. The reaction was immediate and fierce.
Over on Reddit, in that Our Young Thug community, users were all over it. One comment, and I'm quoting here, said, "He gave the police more information than Gunna. Yak named names in a murder investigation, and that information was used by the police and DA to build a case against multiple other people."
Wow. That really captures the shock, the criticism, doesn't it?
Definitely. And it wasn't just anonymous commenters online.
No, definitely not. You had influential figures like Whack 100 weighing in, using that leaked footage.
What do you say?
He basically accused Gotti directly, claimed he was celebrating in the interrogation room, said he looked too comfortable with the detectives.
Celebrating, that's a strong word.
It is. And coming from someone like Whack 100, it really amplified that negative narrative, pushed it way beyond just fan theories.
And then there were people closer to the situation,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
within YSL.
Yeah, YSL Duke. He went on X, formerly Twitter, with this really heated rant.
Directly at Yak.
Oh, yeah, accusing him of falsifying statements, betraying trust. Duke even specifically mocked Yak's claim about giving his gun to Duke.
Why? What was the implication?
Duke saw it as Yak trying to shift blame onto him. So these weren't just vague criticisms, they were specific public accusations from someone inside the circle.
It strongly suggested that many felt his behavior in that room, well, it went way beyond just a standard legal reading of your rights or whatever.
And this part, I think, really highlights our first key insight, maybe. In this online visual world, snippets, clips, they can become the truth almost instantly.
Yeah, overriding any legal process, presumption of innocence.
Exactly. The speed that public opinion condemns someone, especially within a culture with such a strong code, based mostly on interpreting a visual, it's striking and incredibly powerful.
So, okay, intense pressure, accusations flying from fans, commentators, even peers.
Yeah.
How did Yak Gotti himself respond? Because he did address it, right?
Right.
But maybe not in the way people expected.
He did. He appeared on shows like Big Facts after he was released. He talked about, the experience being in jail, the emotional toll of it all.
But did he address the video directly, the snitching allegations?
He talked around it, maybe. It's also important to remember the timing here. This footage resurfaced right when he was actively fighting the prosecutors.
Right, he was making moves to stop plea deals, resisting that route, unlike a lot of others.
Exactly. So despite discussing the situation, he never explicitly came out and said, yes, I testified, or yes, I cooperated. There was this ambiguity.
And that ambiguity, combined with how he looked in the video, you said calm, cooperative.
Mm-hmm. It just contrasted so sharply with his later actions, resisting the plea deals. It created more confusion, really, deep in the speculation. He wasn't exactly clearing the air.
Okay, so ambiguity, resistance, but this cloud hanging over him from the video.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the most dramatic part. The legal outcome.
The twist.
A huge twist. It defied all that online outrage, all the accusations.
Yeah.
Despite everything, the video, the public outcry, the snitching claims, Yak Gotti's legal result.
Not guilty.
On all counts, including murder, including the gang involvement charges.
Yeah.
After the RSEO trial.
Yeah.
Just acquitted.
It was a stunning outcome for many observers. And, this acquittal, despite all that controversy in the video, it really did expose some, let's say, fragilities in the prosecution's case.
Oh, so.
Well, it suggested they might have been relying heavily on contextual evidence rather than concrete proof.
Can you explain that difference for us? Contextual versus concrete.
Sure. Contextual evidence might be things like, say, rap lyrics, social media posts, who you associate with things that build a picture but don't directly prove a specific act.
Okay.
Concrete evidence is more direct, undeniable stuff. Think DNA, fingerprints, a clear eyewitness definitively linking someone to a specific crime.
Got it. And Yak's outcome really stood out compared to others in the case.
Massively. He'd refused those plea deals, which many others, including Gunna, had taken. And look at Shannon S.B. Stillwell. He also went to trial, got cleared of the major charges too, only found guilty on, I think, a gun possession count.
Meanwhile, many who took the plea deals.
They ended up with sentences, convictions, like Gunna.
So that acquittal, combined with that video still lurking,
Yeah.
you can see how it would fuel more suspicion, right?
Absolutely. Among fans, maybe even some co-defendants, the thinking became, maybe he did cooperate somehow. Maybe that video was significant, and that's how he got this favorable outcome.
It created this perception that his strategy, whatever it was, maybe even including his actions in that interrogation room, somehow worked out for him in a way it didn't for others.
Yeah, blurring those lines again between what's a legal win and what satisfies that cultural code of loyalty.
Which leads us to maybe a second key insight.
I think so. The legal system's definition of proof, what it takes to convict someone beyond a reasonable doubt, it's often much narrower, much stricter than public perception.
Especially when that perception is fueled by viral media snippets.
Exactly. So you get these outcomes, like Yak Gotti's acquittal, that are legally sound based on the evidence presented in court, but they completely shock or confuse the public. It highlights a real disconnect.
So thinking bigger picture, what does all this mean for the whole YSL trial? For legal strategies in these kinds of cases, especially for, you listening and trying to understand how the justice system works in these high-profile situations?
Well, Yak's acquittal definitely intensified the scrutiny on the prosecution's entire approach in the YSL case.
That case was already controversial, wasn't it? Particularly how they used rap lyrics and social media posts as evidence.
Precisely. That was a huge point of contention. Critics, defense lawyers, they argued that using lyrics blurred the line between artistic expression and actual criminal intent.
Building a case on shaky ground, some might say?
Potentially. And Yak's successful defense, despite that controversial video, could potentially embolden others.
How so?
It might encourage defendants in similar situations, maybe future cases, to resist plea deals if they feel the evidence against them is largely circumstantial or contextual.
Like the lyrics or associations we talked about.
Exactly. It really underscores the complexity of it all. You've got loyalty, you've got legal optics, personal strategy, survival.
It brings us right back to those core questions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Personal survival versus loyalty, courtroom strategy versus street code, legal risk versus trust in the system.
And trust within your own cultural sphere, too. It's all tangled together.
And his not guilty verdict, especially since others did take pleas, does that suggest the overall case, maybe even against young Thug, wasn't as strong as the prosecution initially claimed?
It certainly raises questions, particularly about relying on symbolic things like lyrics or perceived gang signs to prove concrete criminal activity under ICO. It suggests the evidence might have been weaker in tying specific actions to specific people beyond a reasonable doubt.
Could this acquittal sort of set a precedent then? Encourage more defendants to roll the dice at trial if the evidence feels thin?
It definitely creates a powerful example. This whole YSL case became a flashpoint for discussing how prosecutors gather and use evidence, especially when it involves creative expression.
So Yak Gotti's acquittal, even with the video drama,
It ultimately exposed potential weaknesses in relying too heavily on those contextual elements. It really highlights that gap between what seems obvious in public perception and what holds up under strict legal standards of proof.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've gone through the intense scrutiny around that interrogation video
Explored those really deep-seated cultural rules about loyalty in hip-hop.
and looked at the, frankly, surprising legal outcome acquittal on all the major charges.
His journey from that viral video sparking outrage to a not guilty verdict, it really challenges a lot of assumptions.
It really does. It's a powerful illustration of that tension, that clash between cultural norms and strict legal definitions.
And it shows how public opinion, often shaped by, let's face it, incomplete information or just a snippet of video, can run completely counter to what eventually happens in a courtroom.
So maybe we can distill this down for you listening. 3 key takeaways from this deep dive. First,
That no snitching code. It acts like a powerful, almost parallel justice system in hip-hop, and it's unforgiving.
second, in our age of viral everything, public opinion can deliver its verdict long before any court does.
Yeah, and that verdict can be brutal, based on very little sometimes. And third,
The legal system's standard of proof is often way more specific, way narrower than what sways public perception.
which leads to these outcomes that can seem shocking or confusing to the public, even if they make perfect sense legally based on the evidence or lack thereof presented.
So here's the final thought to leave you with. Yak Gotti's case forces us to ask, when someone's survival is literally on the line, how far can that line of loyalty be stretched?
And what does it really mean to win? Is it winning in the court of law? Or is it winning in the court of public opinion within your culture?
It's a tough question. It challenges how we understand justice, culture, personal responsibility, especially when everything plays out under such an intense spotlight. Something to definitely think about.